Okay, today I will talk about one of the most overlooked environmental challenges of our time, which is textiles. I think when we think about environmental pollution, we often think about plastic packaging, waste management, climate change, everything that is very apparent nowadays. Yet the clothes we wear every day are connected to all of these issues. The textile industry has become one of the most resource intensive sectors globally, consuming enormous amounts of water, energy, land, and the raw materials. And at the same time, it generates significant waste, pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions. And now so far in the past decades, we've seen the pollution everywhere, and we thought we've seen the worst of the pollution. However, now that we know that microplastics degrade into smaller particles, and we have microplastics and nanoplastics, the amount of these polluters accumulate. So I think it's the biggest threat nowadays, the pollution we don't see. In many ways, textiles represent a perfect example of the sustainability challenges we face in our broader economic system. And in this presentation, I'm going to explore how materials move through the textile system, where environmental impacts occur, and why microfibers have become a growing concern, what are more circular and sustainable textile sector options, and how the system should look like if we would apply circular economy principles in the textiles industry. What makes even more concerning is that we have this growing threat to our ecosystems, that is microplastics. And the textiles and the fashion industry, they represent third highest pressure on water and land use, fifth highest use of raw materials and greenhouse gas emissions. And what's most concerning maybe is the consumption is growing, and we have even more textiles being consumed. The textiles last less, despite all the sustainability commitments and all the regulation that has been implemented in this sector. When it comes to the environmental footprint, what it actually means is that every textile product requires resources throughout its life cycle. Natural fibers, such as cotton, require land, water, fertilizers, and pesticides. Synthetic fibers require fossil fuels and energy-intensive manufacturing processes. And also transportation, chemical treatments, packaging, retail infrastructure. As a result, textile consumption creates significant greenhouse gas emissions. And in Europe alone, the average citizen consumes an average of 19 kilograms of textiles per year. When multiplied across hundreds of millions of people living on the planet, the environmental footprint becomes enormous. These numbers here are a few numbers I collected from the European Commission website, and they can really help us understand the scale of the challenge. As I said previously, the average European purchases around 90 kilograms of textiles annually, but at the same time, approximately 16 kilograms of textile waste are generated per person each year. So if we think about this for a moment, we can realize that almost as much textile is generated as new textiles purchased. So only 3 kilograms difference. And this reflects a system based on rapid turnover and short product lifespans. And the contributor here is fast fashion, of course. Another important fact is that only a very small proportion of textile fibers currently come from closed loop textile to textile recycling. So although circular economy is often discussed as a solution, the reality is that the vast majority of textile materials still leave the system after use. And this is important because if we want to look beyond recycling and we want to focus first of all on prevention, durability, repair, and reuse, as these numbers show, recycling is definitely not an option, definitely not a solution. Can be a part of solution, but definitely not a solution for textiles. So, as I said, one of the key drivers behind all these trends and all these shocking numbers is the rise of fast fashion. And it's not only about cheap clothing, it's a business model designed around continuous growth and rapid consumption. New collections appear every few months, sometimes even every few weeks, and garments are produced at very low cost and sold at prices that encourage frequent purchasing. Many products are at the same time designed for short use cycles and are very quickly, because of the fast fashion trends, replaced by newer collections. So the environmental, but also something very important is the social costs associated with production are very often externalized to manufacturing regions and communities that very often are outside Europe. As a result, we have enormous volumes of textiles consumed and discarded very quickly, and this creates pressure throughout the entire system, from resource extraction to, at the end, disposal and waste management of all of that. And importantly, for today's discussion, it also increases the amount of synthetic fibers entering the environment. So to understand where these impacts occur, it is useful to follow the journey of materials through the textile system, which is called the material flow. Rather than focusing only on waste at the end of life of our clothes, we examine every stage of the product journey from raw material to disposal. And this approach helps us identify where resources are consumed, where pollution occurs, and where opportunities are for circularity. As I will move through a few next slides, I would ask you to think about one thing is at which point in this system are materials being lost, where the microplastics are being produced, because every time materials leave the system as pollution or waste, achieving circularity becomes even more difficult. So it is very important to identify these leakages. So many people still associate textiles primarily with natural materials such as cotton, wool, or linen. But however, today's textile industry looks very different than a few decades ago. Even a decade ago, it was quite different. We can see here that approximately 65% of global fiber production consists of synthetic fibers, with polyester being, of course, by far the dominant material. So polyester is actually basically a plastic divided from fossil fuels. And this means that much of our clothing is quite literally plastics or fossil fuel derivatives. So synthetic fibers, they become popular because, as Tomislav said earlier, they are inexpensive, they are durable, they are lightweight, they are easy to produce at scale, which is very important for the fast fashion as they want to produce a lot and very quickly. However, the widespread use has also created new environmental challenges, and one of those challenges is the release of microfibers, which I will discuss later in the presentation. So understanding what textiles are made of is very important if we want to understand why microfiber pollution has become such an important and pressing issue in today's society. As this chart on the right illustrates, polyester is absolutely dominating the market. And However, if these synthetic fibers, they are for sure cheaper to produce and easier to scale, and are very profitable, which is definitely the trend. We are everything in this world today is about profits. However, they do create a lot of environmental challenges, and this means that every discussion about textile sustainability today must also include a discussion about microplastics, about plastics in general, and about microfibers. So, to understand all of this, let's have a quick look at the life cycle of any textile products. So, the journey begins with fiber production. Natural fibers, such as cotton, they require large amounts of water and agricultural inputs, but synthetic fibers rely on fossil fuel and they have a very energy intensive industrial processes. The second stage is yarn and fabric manufacturing. Here, fibers are transformed into textiles through spinning, weaving, and knitting. And this process as well consumes a lot of energy, water, and very important various chemical substances. The third stage is dyeing and finishing, which is often considered the most environmentally intensive part of the entire life cycle. And as we move through the life cycle, and we are not done yet, we still have a few more phases. Each stage has their own is creating new environmental pressures. Some are visible, and other remain largely hidden from the consumers. And one of the main goals of circular economy thinking is to identify these impacts rather than focusing on only what happens at the end, which is disposal or discharge of microplastics to the environment. Dyeing and finishing, I wanted to have this as a separate slide. This stage of life cycle of textiles, because they are among the most chemical intensive stages. These processes use thousands of chemical substances to achieve specific colors, textures, to be water resistant, stain resistant, and to have other performance characteristics. Globally, textiles dyeing and finishing are estimated to contribute around 20% of industrial water pollution. Wastewater from textile factories can contain dyes, solvents, heavy metals. surfactants, and wide range of hazardous chemicals. In This is very, very concerning because if you think about the fact that in many regions, wastewater treatment systems are either insufficient or absent, and this is also the case in Montenegro. We have many municipalities that still don't have wastewater treatment systems, and even when they have, sometimes they are quite outdated and not functioning well. And this will be a very big challenge in the future for Montenegro, but also for other countries. And allowing these pollutants and all these hazardous materials to enter our rivers, lakes, and coastal environments is truly disastrous. And this is why textile sustainability is also very much a water pollution issue. When it comes to textiles, it's very important to point out to PFAS or forever chemicals. These are widely used in textile to provide all the characteristics that textile needs to have. Those I mentioned also before, such as resistance, water resistance, stain resistance, to be more durable, and so on. And they are indeed truly efficient in what they do. The problem is that they are also very persistent. These substances do not easily break down in nature. Instead, they accumulate in water, soil, wildlife, and even our own bodies. The research is increasingly linking PFAS exposure to various health and environmental concerns. And from circular economy perspective, this raises a very important question. Can any product be truly circular if they contain substances that remain harmful throughout multiple life cycles and even after disposals and continue living in our environment? And one of the key messages that Zero Waste Europe is sending is that circularity and toxicity cannot be treated separately. For sure, toxic textile cannot ever become truly circular textile, even if we would be closing the loop. So we move on after this to the last three phases of garment production. So after dyeing and finishing, this stage of garment production includes cutting, sewing, assembly, packaging, and transportation. And these activities, of course, again, consume energy and generate waste. Once these garments, these or clothes reach consumers, environmental impacts again continue. Every wash requires water and energy. Each drying cycle consumes additional energy, and then synthetic garments continuously release fibers during use. And finally, at the end of the stage, the most visible impact all of us can see is that most of the textiles is still ending up in nature. They are being landfill, incinerated, and even very still very much often exported to other countries and other economies that do not have capacities to deal with these amounts of waste. And that's why we have at the EU level a new regulation that is forbidding waste waste exports to the countries unless they are able to prove that they can later manage this waste in the right way. So what is also very much important to say here that only 1% of clothes is recycled into new textiles. And this means that enormous quantities of valuable materials are lost from the systems forever each year. So let's make it a bit more concrete by looking at a simple polyester t-shirt that is basically your gym shirt or gym shorts. So the journey begins with gas extraction. Then we have fossil fuels transformed into polymers, which are then converted to fibers. Fibers become yarn, fabric, and eventually, after all the sewing and everything, a finished garment. And the garment is then transported, sold, used, washed, dried, and at the end discarded. So in every stage of the textile life cycle, we have a lot of activities happening, and most of them are harmful. Uh, at mostly every stage, we have these three: energy use, chemical inputs, and microfiber losses. When it comes to microfiber losses, they are released during manufacturing, transportation, wearing, washing, drying, and at the end, at the disposal when we have a certain product, for example, this t-shirt, discarded anywhere it is, then it then becomes microplastics over time. So what this tells us is that the fiber issue cannot be isolated from the broader textile system. Uh, so we have just now followed materials through the textile system. And the next question is what happens when these tiny fragments of those materials escape into the environment? And that is where the microfiber issue enters the story. So, over the last decade, microfibers have emerged as one of the most important forms of pollution associated specifically with textiles. And they connect fashion, water pollution, plastic pollution, and circular economy challenges in a single huge issue. And to understand why this matters, we need to understand what these fibers are and where they come from. So here we can see where microfibers come from. And while textiles are not the only source of microplastics, they're among the largest contributors globally. So every time synthetic fabrics experience degradation or friction, fibers detach from the surface, and then these fibers are often too small to be effectively captured by anything and can move through wastewater systems into our environment and specifically into rivers, lakes, and seas. One very important takeaway here is that microfiber pollution is directly linked to production volumes. As I said before, the more we produce and consume, the worse it is. So the more synthetic fibers uh, are being produced, we have to look beyond technical solutions and examine the broader production and consumption system and patterns we have nowadays. So when it comes to sources, the very simple definition of microfibers is that they are tiny fibers released from throughout products, and they can be released during many activities, but not all the microfibers, no, not all microfibers are the same. Some come from natural fibers, such as cotton and wool, which is not a huge issue, but others, and as we could see from the previous slide, the vast majority of them come from semi-synthetic fibers, such as viscose, and some come from synthetic fibers like polyester, nylon, and acrylic. And the biggest concern relates to these second ones coming from synthetics, because they create, of course, the microfibers. Because they are invisible to the naked eye, they can travel long distances through air and water, and they accumulate throughout the environment. What makes this very challenging is that they are not released at a single point. So this visual on the right illustrates all the different stages where we have microfibers releasing. And in other words, this is not a single event issue. It's a continuous leakage of material throughout all the value chain of textiles. So here we have as well the journey of microfiber to the disposal. I think I already spoke about this enough, but this also brings us to the point that we should realize that this is why prevention is so important, and this is why prevention is at the top of the waste hierarchy. The most effective solution is often preventing pollution before it occurs rather than trying to clean it up afterwards when we already have done the damage. So moving on to the circularity of the microfibers, I promise I'm not going to only talk about challenges. I have a few slides about solutions. So when we hear that circular economy will solve the textile problem, the reality is very, very complex. Textiles are among the most difficult products probably to be truly circular. So why is this? It's because many garments are made from blended materials. For example, one single product can contain cotton, polyester, elastin, dyes, other additives, and these mixtures make separation and recycling technically challenging or even impossible sometimes. In addition, chemical additives can contaminate recycling streams, and this is why they're as well very important, not just because of our health and because of the health of our planet, but also they are preventing basically recycling. Collection systems are as well one of the challenges. I don't know how it is in your countries, but in Montenegro, we don't have textile separate collection, though it is now mandated by the European Union, and we'll all at one point have to do it. But this also is an issue in many countries. And as I said before, even when recycling takes place, materials often lose quality. They need additives to have the same performances as they used to have. And sometimes recycling is also resulting in downcycling rather than in true circularity. So Um, that is exactly why this recycling, which is not the highest on the waste hierarchy, it cannot really solve the textile challenge. So we need a lot of innovation, and we need to move a bit higher up the hierarchy and start working on these before we come to the recycling phase. Here we have a comparison of two completely different ways of thinking about materials in general. The linear model follows a very simple logic. Take resources, make some products, use those products, and then discard them. And this model assumes an endless supply of resources and unlimited capacity of nature to absorb all the pollution and all the waste. And this is why most of the maybe you have noticed before that now the discussions are moving on from the waste management to resource efficiency. That's because we don't have that many resources on the planet before. For sure, we don't have enough to be using the linear model to have single-use products and so on. And quite the opposite, the circular model seeks to keep products and materials in use as long as possible. The goal is not simply better waste management. It is a resource efficiency, as I said earlier, and this is to reduce the extraction and to prevent waste generation in the first place. And this distinction is extremely important because circular economy begins at the design stage, not at the recycling stage. And not all circular strategies deliver the same environmental benefits and the same results in the economy. So this hierarchy, though it seems simple, and I've seen this before, even people who are in the sector for long and are at decision-making have the decision-making roles, they often forget the very simple hierarchy that is actually showing us which actions we need to prioritize. So the greatest environmental benefits truly do come from preventing unnecessary pollution in the first place. And after prevention, we have durability, ensuring products last longer, which is better design, then repair, reuse, sharing systems, and refurbishment. And the recycling is important, but as you can see, it comes much later than all the more effective solutions we have. This can sometimes be a bit surprising to the broader public because we aren't so used to the recycling narrative. If something is recycled or can be recycled or is made from recycled content, we immediately think, okay, this is the best we can, which is not always the case. And from a zero waste perspective, the highest value is achieved by avoiding the waste generation in the first place. So, how does this is an infographic from Zero Waste Europe, and you can as well see a study at the website that is explaining a bit closer, but I'm not going to take too much time from you today. I'm not sure if we are if we still have time in this session, but I will just say briefly that a truly circular textile system would look in the ideal world very different from today's fast fashion model. Products would be designed for durability, repair would be normal, it wouldn't be exceptional as it is today. Reuse markets would be supported and accessible, not informal, like we have the case in many countries. Sharing and rental models would become viable alternatives for certain product categories. And very importantly, materials would be safe, not toxic, and easier to recycle. Most importantly, business success would no longer depend on selling ever increasing and indefinite volumes of new products. And that's probably the most challenging transition of all, because I can see all of the earlier mentioned happened, but I think the industry and the fast fashion would very be hard to transform. So we have discussed problems and maybe a little bit solutions, but the good news is that policymakers and researchers, also many businesses, especially small businesses and civil society organizations, are recognizing this needs systemic change. And solving the textile challenge requires action at multiple levels. My colleague Zvezdana mentioned it a little bit, but what is definitely true is that nothing can save it, can solve this by itself. So technology alone can save it. Consumer awareness won't be enough if other elements are not there. Recycling is not the solution for these amounts, at least in this in products designed this way. So we need policy and industry transformation and change in behavior working together if we want to address this issue more systematically. When it comes to EU legal framework, there are some new developments, and considering the issue and everything I explained earlier, luckily it is recognized as well at the EU level and the decision-making level. So there are a number of important measures aimed at transforming the textile sector. So separate collection has become mandatory from January 2025. This means that all the member states will have to have separate collection of textiles um, by this deadline. Then extended producer responsibility schemes, they must be established. And this is very important, especially because of the industry, because now with the extended producer responsibility, if it is implemented properly everywhere, we will have producers being responsible and contributing to collection, sorting, treatment costs, but also prevention. And then we have eco design for sustainable products regulation. This piece of legislation introduces requirements related to durability, repairability, but also recyclability and product performance. And this is, of course, because as I explained, it is prevention comes first, and all the more important stages of the waste hierarchy. Then digital product passports, they are intended to improve transparency throughout the value chain. So we know where each product is manufactured, where it ends, and how long it lasted, and what are the performances overall. So taken together, all these policies, they represent a shift away from focusing only on waste management and towards really addressing product design and production systems. The second big challenge I think we are going to face is for sure implementing all this. That's for sure going to be challenging and it's going to take time. So when discussing all this, it is always useful to think about all three levels of interventions that are needed. So at the cultural level, we need to address overconsumption and promote more sustainable consumption patterns, but also support them. At the industrial level, innovation is needed in fiber design, infiltration technologies. We have seen in this project with our partner from Planet Care, who developed such a filter that catches microfibers after they are released from washing machines. Then product durability. At the policy level, we need even stronger, considering the scale of the problem, we need even stronger regulations to improve product standards, which is very important because now we also have online sales and it is a market that's very hard to control. So very strong and strict regulations are very much needed. And of course, all these approaches, there is no single silver bullet to solve the issues. Everything must work together. And it takes a very ambitious action across the entire system. When it comes to circular economy measures, we have here some recommendations that Zero Waste Europe has given to the European Commission in 2024, which is introduce mandatory circularity requirements through eco design for sustainable products regulation. Then one of the recommendation is to support local reuse and repair through tax incentives and extended producer responsibility schemes. Now, extended producer responsibility, it's all depending on how it is regulated and designed. But I think we for sure need stronger support on the reuse and repair, which are very important sectors and very much important, not just from the waste perspective and from the resource perspective, but also from the social perspective. What it was also asked for is to establish minimum recycled content in textiles and design standards that will help us with products being more ready for recycling. Then gradually phase down the use of virgin materials, since we have such an amount of materials already in use and already discarded. We should definitely at least restrict the use of virgin materials for new products. And of course, to prioritize bio-based and safe recycled sources. So now I think discussion about circularity and waste management and resource management can be should be discussed without considering as well environmental and social justice. So it is one of the recommendations to ensure social fairness within circular systems by creating and opening these new green and local jobs supporting social economy through these sectors. Empowering consumers is as well very important. So, but of course, this cannot be something that our governments focus on entirely, because we've seen this before. Governments, they cannot rely on consumer behavior to reduce fashion overconsumption. They must for sure address the root cause, which is the business model. Change cannot rely only on individuals. We really need to build a culture of sufficiency, and I think this is also very important for the whole concept uh, of uh, of making a change necessary in the textile sector is to make consumers aware and empower them to ask for specific changes. So key key takeaways from today's session, as I'm closing today, is that textiles are resource and pollution challenge, not just a fashion issue. Microfibers should be looked as a symptom of a production model, a very linear production model. Circularity requires all the stages of the waste hierarchy, which is prevention, durability, reuse, and safe materials. Recycling alone cannot solve the problem it is today. And the transition requires all the elements, including policy change, industry transformation, and informed customers. And as for the final takeaway, I think we should always have this question in mind when we think about textile, about new solutions, about innovation, about solving this issue is, can a system based on ever-growing textile production ever become sustainable? And that's how we will very easily find the root problem. Thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions, of course, I'm here to answer.